Right.
I can't. I'm doing this thing.
That's the little dog. John, I'm very excited to let me see if this production actually works. Let's start.
5,
All right, shit, it does.
3.
Walk like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Oh, rumble, young man, rumble. Oh! Need to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You not shit. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass. You don't do shit.
I'm employed because of boxing. A little cockroach that is toiling around.
We're here with the great John Scully. John, a few days ago, that was the 10-year anniversary of Larry Merchant talking shit to Floyd Mayweather.
Okay. Nice.
We're very, very excited to have you here. Jimmy and I have been geeking out about this for a while because there's so much information in your head, and we're like, how do we extract it in one conversation? I've been studying you for a while. I've actually watched every fight that you have up online. I've seen all the humanitarian stuff you're up to. This is actually really, really cool moment. Jimmy's like, how are we going to fit this in? I'm like, hopefully we don't fuck it up and he'll come back because we got a lot
I mean, there's so many things you could start with. I say you started with what he's doing to give back. He's received a lot from this sport. He's given back, and I don't think I could think of a guy that I truly thought loved boxing more than John Scully. I really can't think of anybody. So can we just start with the fallen fighters? We were actually together on one of the guys on that when I fought Mike, unfortunately, and so I mean I watch what you do on a daily basis. And it ain't it's not a fad for you. Okay. You've been doing it and you've been tirelessly doing it, and you take over.
Well, basically I help fighters like the most probably well-known situation is Gerald McClellan. He was hurt in a fight. Boxing fans know what happened. They may not realize that not only is he deeply incapacitated, but that his sister has to take care of him 24 hours a day. So she can't work, she can't leave the house really, unless somebody's there to keep an eye on him. He could be a danger to himself. So I started thinking about it. I use a little common sense, and I'm like, man, well, how do they get money? How does she buy groceries if she can't work? And so I realized, even if there is some assistance, maybe the state helps, I don't know, but it's not enough, obviously. So I started realizing two things happened. One, I was looking through my phone one day, and I was kind of a fan. I was looking, I go, man, I know a lot of fighters, man. I know a lot of famous people. Like, this is kind of crazy. I got Roy Jones, and I got this one and that one. I said, there must be a way I could use this for some good, to know these people. And what I started doing, I had a poster of someone. I mean, maybe it was Roy, it was somebody big. And I said, man, if I could get him to sign this, I could probably sell it for $100 and give that money to Wilfred Benitez. And that's what I did, whoever it was. And things just kind of snowballed from there. I started helping Wilfred Benitez, Gerald McClellan, and Pritchard Clone. I've helped other fighters who I care not to mention. Their situation is not as well known as the others, so I don't want to embarrass anyone or anything like that. But so basically, I just try to bring awareness to people who need help and try to raise money to achieve that.
That's one of the most amazing things ever. And were you friends with McClellan when you got into this? Like, what was the catalyst there?
No, the crazy thing was, I had just met him one time in 1988 at Sugar Ray Leonard's gym in Maryland. We talked a little bit, and I thought he was really cool because there was a fight I lost in the finals of the National Golden Gloves, and people said I got robbed, and he told me he thought I won the fight, and so I always thought that was real cool. I always remembered him for that because he thought I won that big fight.
I know
But
that.
that's
I
it.
know that
you
fight.
know.
By the way, you got bronze in the Golden Gloves, and that fight was a rematch, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, that was in the Olympic trials.
Oh, and
I'm
then
talking about in the National Golden Gloves. I got silver. I lost in the finals, 3-2 split. He was there. He beat Roy Jones the day before. He
oh,
beat Roy Jones. Gerald McClellan beat Roy Jones the day before. And then he lost in the finals to Ray McElroy. And then my fight was next. I fought Keith Providence in the 165-pound final. And everybody thought I won the fight. I mean, it is what it is. Everybody thought I won. Even the announcers were like, pretty perplexed. And I didn't get it. 3-2 split. So what was funny was Gerald, I had only met him a month after that fight in Sugar Ray's gym. That's the only time we ever hung. We never, as pros, we never ran across each other. And when I met him about 2 years ago in New York City at the Ring 10 dinner, he was dead. He's mostly deaf and blind. And I was trying to talk to him and he couldn't hear me. He couldn't place my name. I kept saying my name, John Scully, and he couldn't get it. And then he asked his sister, what's his nickname? And I said, the Iceman. And all of a sudden he stopped and he goes, oh, he was a bad mother in the amateurs. So his mind went back to 1988 and that fight. So that was like a connection that he had.
John, were you I remember you as the gentleman. Were you the Iceman in the amateurs? Did you switch?
Yes.
Okay.
When I turned pro, my manager, he wanted me to have an image like a nice kid, a choir boy type of thing, so he had me wear suits all the time and gentleman John. I hated it. I hated it, to be honest with you. And I didn't really want that kind of, not that I'm a bad guy or a thug or anything like that, but I didn't want that clean cut perfect image, but that's what he went for. And after we broke up, I went back to my original nickname.
So you were the Iceman in amateurs. Your manager
Yeah,
talked. Dude, that's cool that he remembered that. So he actually went back.
Yeah, no, it was weird. Like, I told him my name, John Scully, no less than 20 times. I'm like, John Scully. Like, I had to yell it in his ear. And he goes, what was the nickname? And I said, the Iceman. He goes, oh, you a bad mother in the amateurs. And so that was kind of powerful to me, like that he transported himself back into that one word,
The fact that you met him once and did all that, that's a tribute to what a great human being you are. I mean, that's just, thank you for making a difference and everything else. I met you once through one of our great American scholars and philosophers and water salesman, Mike Sawyer. So
yeah.
Mike Sawyer,
Yeah.
I met you briefly.
Kangen water.
Yeah, it all the way. So I met you briefly there, but there was a big event going on. I didn't want to pepper you with a billion questions. We
Right.
Revisiting to now. But Mike, Jimmy and I have been friends for a long time. And
Right.
it's funny, I went to pull up Jimmy and Mike fighting the other day. And my wife pulling it up because I was like, I want to pull up a video of Jimmy and Mike fighting so I can post it on the site. And I find this video called Mike Sawyer on a scooter. And you filmed it. You filmed it.
That was in, I think, the Bahamas or the Cayman Islands we went to for a fight. Yeah, and he could not ride a scooter, boy. I was worried he was going to get hit by a truck. That was horrible. I was actually, I don't know if it was on that video, but I was talking to the camera and I was going, man, this is going to be bad. Like, he's going to get hit by a truck and he's going to get killed right here on the highway. And I'm by myself, and it was horrible. Yeah, I was scared for him.
The title of the video is Money Mike Sawyer rides a scooter. I didn't know you filmed it, so I'm like, let this be Mike Sawyer. I mean, how many Mike Sawyers are there? Sure enough, driving around, and then I heard your voice. I was like, holy shit, Scully filmed this. And we had you booked for the show. It literally made my wife, we laughed so hard.
Yeah, that's a funny video. I gotta pull that up sometime.
dude, where are you now, and what are you doing now aside from changing the world for a better place? Like, what are you doing? You still coaching people?
Yeah, I actually just left the gym. The gym's like 2 blocks behind me. I was working. We have a kids gym. It's for kids 8 to 18. A lot of girls, like half the kids there are girls.
What's
So I train the kids. It's called Charter Oak Boxing Academy, COBA. They call it COBA.
where?
Charter Oak Boxing
Where,
Academy,
where are you?
Hartford, Connecticut.
Oh, you
Hartford,
went back
Connecticut.
home. You went back home.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know you grew up right in that area. I started looking up famous people from that area, and I told Jim I'm more interested in getting my kid in at that age before they can get hurt. What do you? Is that what brought you back there? What brought you back from Florida to Connecticut?
I'll tell you what happened. We
Yeah.
moved down there, and part of the reason, because everybody up north hears that the cost of living is so much cheaper in Florida, right? What they don't tell you, and we found out the hard way, is that you don't make nearly as much money down there. So my wife, for the same exact job, was making $11 an hour less in Orlando, Florida. So I said, man, we got another 20 years of you working this job. You're going to be making all that money less. That's a little crazy. And, and we came back to our hometown.
That's amazing, man. Jimmy, you want to, I know you've got a million questions.
I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to work tonight. I want to sit back and just listen to this guy talk. Really, really, I love to pick this guy's brain. I want to bring one fight up because we talk about me and Eric dispute a lot on the scoring and the bad decisions and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Tell us about the one that you know of, which is an overtime boxing match, and tell us how you really feel about that. The amount of rounds, should they be uneven, things like that? Should they be any kind of overtime in fights? Just broach the subject here.
Right.
Real quick, John, we were talking about overtime should be included, and Jimmy said that you knew of an overtime boxing match that happened, and I'd never.
At least two that I know of two for sure. One definitely was Robert Mendez and Troy Wortham in 1985 in the ESPN welterweight tournament. And Troy's from here. Troy and I used to spar with each other. It was in the ESPN welterweight tournament, so they couldn't have a draw. It was a 10-round fight, and they took the gloves off, and everybody's getting ready to hear the decision, and they say it's a draw. We got to put the gloves back on. They got to do one more round to decide the winner. And they did that, and Troy won the welterweight tournament. And also, I believe it was Ronnie Essett and Doug DeWitt. You could check for sure. I believe it was Essett and DeWitt went 13 rounds for the NEBF title back around 88, 89.
It's amazing that you even remember that. How do you remember so much shit? Jimmy, you and John Scully have way better memories than me. And I didn't in the head like that.
I got a challenge for you, Ice.
The
best I've ever seen at boxing history was not a fighter. Well, he actually was a little bit of a fighter, and that's Frank Stallone. That's who I want to see you have a conversation with him. He just unbelievable the knowledge he has. I lose you.
John, you there? He might be in a frozen area or something like that. But seriously, what a great guy.
Great guy, isn't he? Cool guy.
I don't like this video thing. It shows just how much I drink during the podcast. But I'm actually watching. I'm watching John Scully right now. Let me show you. I put on.
That's Michael Nunn.
Yeah,
that's what fought Nunn.
Yeah, he fought him really fucking well too. I already watched this fight. It was a close fight, and there was apparently, I didn't know this because I never listened to the audio when I watch fights. I like to watch it and sort of make up my own mind, unless it's a big fight, like an old fight with the great announcers. I like to sort of go in clean and see what happened. And apparently there was a really wild scorecard on here that had none winning a lot more rounds than he actually won.
Did you see that message?
Which one?
The text message that just came into us?
No, no. No, what did it say?
No, I don't know. It's from Scully.
Yeah, I shut my phone down to sort of get into the interview.
So it said that Zoom informed him that that the meeting was overheating his phone.
Oh shit. All right, let me turn my actual phone on then and see if that works. Oh, yeah. Tell him to click on the same link. It should just let him right back in. I actually set the meeting for 3 hours, so the meeting is not going to be over.
This poor bastard.
When you're dealing with technology, I can't. First of all, Apple fucked. I can't believe Apple wouldn't allow me to call him. Apple's trying to get me to upgrade to their latest upgrade. They start shutting features off. They're famous for that, and to try to get you into their web of horse shit that they have planned for you. But yeah, tell him, Jimmy, text him real quick and tell him to just click on the link one more time. It should, or just to dial in. There, yeah, there's a phone number there too.
See, he said Zoom, it closed automatically. I guess he.
No, it's a 3-hour meeting, so he should be able to get right back in. Hop back in on. With the link. Man, I was enjoying talking to him. I mean, what type of human being, and I mean this in a, usually when I say what type of human being, it means like you're a horrible human. But what type of human being in this way, the greatest way possible, meet somebody once and then spends a large portion of your life, dedicating yourself.
Helping them out.
Yep. I'm and if not, then I'll start another link and send out a fresh link so we can do it again. But that never happens, Jimmy. Never. I mean, no. How's your day been? What the hell did you do today?
Nah, shit. Not much today. Not much action. I work with a few guys, just teaching them the basics and stuff, but not pretty down day.
When you teaching people how to, are you working with any potential professional fighters? Or you just
I don't want to be. I don't want to be in that business.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe one day, but it's going to be a while. I gotta, I was in the business 40 years.
Once you get out of it, it's nice to step away. It's almost like you feel like when I don't want to, you don't want to actually really be in that. You don't want to be immersed with it. I just stepped away from a whole different business, and I got to tell you, if I never hear the words SMS or MMS ever again, I'm fine with that. Like, you know what I mean? You don't. You immerse yourself in something, and then when you're gone, it almost feels like, all right, I got to get the fuck away from it for my own well-being mentally. But you have so much knowledge in the sport. The thing is I'm not going to be able to change somebody's life with my knowledge of texting and software. You have so much knowledge of the sport, you can actually, but again, you've got your kids, so you can probably.
Yeah, but I think everybody looks back and says, the farther back you go, the better it is. Okay, boxing was better when I was fighting than it is now, and it was better than my time, the era before. Okay, so the era before is always, they long for that era before. So, I don't see in
Sorry,
what happened.
I
What
just
happened?
I just sent you a thing. Let me see if I can send this to Scully to get him back. Even if you call, So yeah, go ahead. Yeah, but you're right. People always long for the era long gone. I mean, I'm not one of those people, but most people look backward and say, "Hey, the good old days were here. Or the good old days were there."
Yeah, and it's hard to look around now and say good old days, because it's just so different. I'm not even saying, I mean, I have my opinion, but I'm not even saying it's not better. What I'm saying is it's different. People don't like change. They want what they grew up with. And it just, it turns some people off, the change.
Yeah, I'm watching. By the way, again, I'm rewatching this. The first time I watched the Nun Scully with you. Scully has a nice sharp. He doesn't waste motion at all. He's not loopy at all. He gets in.
He was a big time amateur, man. That's the amateur background.
I mean, when he explodes, you don't see, and he covers up, elbows down, gloves over the face. It may look like he's taking damage or losing the round, but he's not. He's actually wearing his opponent out.
He definitely knows
the tricks
his way around. And he doesn't do a bad job at teaching the tricks too. He knows what, being a great fighter is different than being a great trainer. It's much different. He knows how to take from the ring and explain it and instill it in guys. It's really, he's good at what he does.
He's great at what he does. I mean, I've heard great story. I wonder if he's got any fighters that are potential pros now. I mean, I've got so many questions, but I mean, like you said, if we can actually get our shit together, we should probably spend like 1,000 hours extracting all of John Scully's knowledge.
Yeah.
Oh, he said he's coming back in 5 minutes. I mean, this Nun fight is. I mean, Nun was a beast during.
Nun was a beast. I think. Who the hell beat him? James Toney, maybe.
Tony beat everybody, so that makes perfect.
Yeah, but at the time it was an upset. I think.
Actually, this is a good chance for. Why don't you actually tell the story of the James Toney, or tell any story you want? I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick because John's going to be back on here shortly. I want to make sure I'm refreshed.
I'll do the same thing. We'll have some dead air.
Well, no dead air. Let me do it one at a time because I'll fill in. Let me put on. What song do you want to put on? Your dead air. Let me put on something for you.
Put Ice Baby while we're waiting for the Iceman.
It's funny. Fucking Sawyer told me to put that on for him.
Either that or Elvis. He's a big Elvis fan.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Yo, VIP. Let's kick it. Ice, baby. Ice, baby. All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with the brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. Flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights, and I'll glow. To the extreme, I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up a stage and wax a chump like a candle. Dance, rush a speaker that booms. I'm killing your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deadly. When I play a dope melody, anything less than the best is a felony. Love it or leave it. You better gain weight. You better hit the bullseye. The kid don't play. And if there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while my DJ revolves it. Ice, ice, baby.
is jumping with the bass kicked in and the Vegas all pumping. Quick to the point.
I'm back.
I'm just sitting here thinking of questions that we're not going to get to.
You know, I'm watching round.
You just take it slow. And what round are you in now?
Round 4, none Scully. Scully's actually hunting him right now. He's hunting him. And he did a thing that I've actually never really seen done. And it was a move where he actually he's almost dancing in the middle of the ring. He put his gloves up, his things down. He'd sort of dance and swerve side to side, swerve side to side. And then he'd always pop out. I shouldn't say always, but he was clearly setting these up. But then he'd pop out a jab and just squirt all the time. And then he'd come out with a nice set of vicious shit.
Yeah, I don't even think I noticed that.
He kind of had I've never seen a fighter cover up better than John Scully, to be quite honest. I've been watching him and studying him a lot over the last couple weeks. Ever since you said he was going to be on, I've watched every fight that he's had. John, welcome back. John, are you there?
Yo, can you hear me?
I think John's connecting to audio.
Yes. Hello.
John, I've watched so much of your film over the last few weeks, but I'm watching the Michael Nunn fight. And I was telling Jimmy, I don't think I've ever seen a fight. First of all, your movements are so, there's no wasted movement ever. But second, I don't think I've ever seen a fighter cover up better in my entire life, 40 some years of watching fighting. You held your gloves up high and your elbows down low. It may look to most people like you were taking a lot of abuse, and you just weren't. You probably lost a lot of rounds that most people didn't realize you won. And in the meantime, tired and probably won a lot of fights doing the same thing by tiring people out. I don't think I've ever seen anyone defend like that.
Well, I got it from Marlon Starling. If you watch Marlon Starling, he's from Hartford. He was the best at it, and I copied him. And I think I didn't get credit. You're right. A lot of people didn't realize that I wasn't getting touched with clean shots at all. Like I wasn't. And now he was busy. Michael was very busy. It's almost like it worked. My defense was so good that night that it actually worked against me in the sense of I couldn't feel his punches at all. Like I didn't feel anything. So I didn't even really have the urgency to be more offensive because he wasn't hurting me or even catching me at all. And so it kind of, in a crazy way, it kind of worked against me in the end.
I could see that. John, are you still sporting the rat tail? Please tell me you're still sporting the rat tail.
James Toney cut it off in training camp. He cut it off with electric clippers. Him, Jimmy Griggs, and Jimmy Griggs. Yep.
If there's anybody that you're going to allow to cut it off, James Toney is the perfect person to do it.
No, I didn't allow it. He cut it. They came in my room at 8 a.m. and held me down on the bed and clipped it off.
Bro, dead serious. I think that's the most beautiful rat tail I've ever seen. I'm actually watching this going, God, I wish if I were only a hairier person, I could rock.
Listen, you know what? I used to have beads in it. When I wasn't fighting, I had beads in it, wrapped in beads. It was awesome. And then I had the beads. When James Toney cut it off, I didn't realize he actually cut it. And I called my friend and I go, man, James, he was just in here, he was trying to cut my hair. And I could feel the beads 6 inches lower on my back than normal. And I reached back and I was holding my tail in my hand.
That's like coming to America, where Hakeem.
Yeah, it was just like that. Yeah, it was just like that. He cut it off. I mean, it was horrible, man. But I got James. I didn't get James back quite as good as he got me, but I got him back.
Jimmy, you have to rewatch this Scully Nunn fight, and you have to rewatch his work. It looks, if you're an amateur person watching in the stands, it looks like Michael Nunn is throwing a ton of punches and landing, and none of them are landing because Scully's defense. I've never ever seen a fighter defend better than John Scully ever in my life.
Well, Marlon Starling did. But yeah, like I say, I got so comfortable blocking the punches that, I forgot, like, man, you got to fire back, but I was comfortable, and I always had a good defense. I always was able to keep my hands up. But like I say, I literally copied Marlon Starling. Watching him as a kid, I always thought it was so amazing how he could just deflect punches and block punches, and nobody had ever done that before like that. And so if I didn't live in Hartford, I wouldn't have done that, but I did it because he was a local guy, and I picked it up from him. And,
you're talking shit right now to Nunn at the end of round 5. Yeah.
Round 5. Yeah, we were going. He called me a mother effer at one point in that round, and I was so amazed, and I was saying to myself, like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, Michael Nunn just called me a mother effer. This is crazy. Like, and it was kind of surreal. It was fun.
That's a perfect segue to what happened with the weigh-in yesterday, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think it was bush league.
Which did you, John? Did you see the weigh-in yesterday?
Yeah, with the punch. Yeah.
So the Canelo fight is scheduled for what, like 6 weeks from today or something like that. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say that Showtime fucked that up. If you have Canelo coming on, you've got a multi-million-dollar thing stepping up. You have no security guards between two hyped up fighters, people that are literally paid to kick the shit out of each other. And it's like an old man and a woman on stage.
Can I stop you?
Yeah, go for it.
Because they're also paid to perform. And a lot of times that weigh-in is a performance.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look back to the greatest fighters of all time, they all sold tickets at the weigh-in. And they all did it with class. And I mean, even sometimes they would get into pushing matches, or maybe somebody would slap somebody, but they knew that they were working, and they never closed their fist. I mean, I can't think of a dumber thing to do, to close your fist and punch a man in his head when you make millions and millions and millions of dollars with your hands.
Well,
so
and you're fighting this particular guy, like it would certainly be a lesson if the fight is off, because of that. Like if the cut can't heal or whatever, you'd have to say, Canelo, good job. You just stopped yourself from making, 5 million, whatever he makes.
Right.
It'd be crazy.
Because at the end of the day, yes, it's a sport, but it thrives because it's entertainment, and you need those people to be entertained.
Right.
Well, Canelo blamed it on the word motherfucker, which is funny because Canelo's used that word so many times. I mean,
right. He just learned it though, like 6 months ago.
Right now, it meant yesterday that he literally fucked his mother to him, apparently, for that 1 second. He's like, that's it.
Yeah. I think I put up a status. I put up a thing on Facebook today, and I was saying, whoever taught Canelo English but didn't explain to him what that term means, is the funniest guy in the whole equation. Like, you know,
Yeah.
What a beautiful excuse at the end of it, because you know, if we all know there's certain rumors that Canelo might be a little jacked up because you know, very rarely do you go up in weight class and start knocking more people out. You know, I'm sure that this is going to put those rumors to rest.
right? I don't know if you guys can hear this. I must have just hit Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I hear it.
I'm literally getting probably 100 and something emails from that I didn't get this morning. So give me a second till it dies down.
It sounds like you just walked into a casino in the middle.
Yeah.
In the
Okay,
meantime, I just watched you. Win round 6 handily, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know, I didn't get. I'll tell you what, honestly, I believe there's certain parts of the fight where, and this is human nature, and I've done it, you know, especially as a younger guy. You watch a guy fight who's supposed to win, you know, who's the big name, you know, and so even if the other guy does something good, you kind of subconsciously you dismiss it. Like Ali. Ali fought guys that probably didn't get rounds against him that maybe they deserved. They earned those rounds, but people didn't give it to him because it's Ali, and they say, "Hey, that guy really can't be beating Ali. Like Ali must just be letting him, you know, subconsciously." So I think there was times when they didn't give me credit that I deserved.
Well, with your style, especially, I could easily see it.
Yeah.
Your defense was so good. You know, somebody could throw 35, 40 punches and literally land none of them. And
Right.
looks very busy. And then you come back with a quick, very sharp left hook that lands in the body or the face. And technically, you just won the round. But
Right.
people could easily misscore that. Now you had like 70 amateur fights, right? Or 70.
Yeah, I had 70, including exhibition. I had 74. Yeah.
74. The two other ones. What do you think is the right number of amateur fights before you go pro, John? What, like, ballpark?
I mean, a guy should have probably at least say 50, you know, give or take. You know, it depends on, you know, not being disrespectful, but if you have 50 amateur fights in Detroit or Texas or California, that's different than having 50 amateur fights in Idaho. You know what I mean? Or Wyoming.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a little different situation. You know, I know guys who've had a ton of amateur fights, but they've never been anywhere. They've never been to a regional tournament. They've never advanced to a national tournament. You know, so they don't have the experience that a guy maybe with lesser fights, but he's been to the nationals and he's fought guys, you know, the best guys from the Midwest, the best guys from California, you know, that type of thing. So it's misleading, and there's certainly too many amateur fights. You know, a good friend of mine, Kelsey Banks had, I believe it was 589 amateur fights.
Wow.
So that's too many, period. Like, it's just, and he was a great amateur. Like, at one time, maybe pound for pound, the best amateur.
What age
you know,
did Kelsey start? Like, when? How do you?
Oh, just a little kid. Well, you know, there was a guy, and Jimmy probably knows him, Bones Adams, Clarence Bones Adams.
Oh.
I met Bones when he was 13 and I was 19, and I had 48 fights at the time, and he had 113, and he was 13 years old. He had literally 3 times almost as many fights as I did, and I was 19 and he was 13. So, you know, he grew up in, you know, Illinois, I guess, or Kentucky, wherever he grew up. He actually grew up, I think, Kentucky. And, you know, they had a hot amateur scene. They would do fights every weekend. So he got a lot of different competition than I did, you know, even though the majority of my amateur fights were at the national level. So I got good experience that way.
What brought you into that gym, man? Well, like, I mean, you came from Hartford. Hartford's a rough ass area. I've been there a lot. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a rough area. I've spent some time. I went to a strip club in Hartford once, and it looked like a union workers a meeting.
This
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
this is right up John's alley, because what I've noticed about John, he remembers every detail. I don't know if you walk around with a notebook or what,
You have a
but
freaking memory. I've seen it already on this call.
he remembers every detail of anything that is significant in his life. It's like it's
Right,
documented, and he
right.
remembers it.
I'm sure
And
your wife appreciates that. You're the one person that remembers more than a woman.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a funny thing. I remember most stuff, just in my head, right?
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I started writing things down, and I had a girlfriend at one point, and we would, she'd be like, "Oh well, no, I was with my mother that weekend," and I go, "Nah, nah, 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 nah. August 17, you were at, you were in, Waterbury or whatever." Like I would keep track of everything. So I get like, if you ask me right now, what were you doing July 13th, 1992? I could go to my book and I'll tell you who I was with, what we did, what movie we watched, where we ate. I write it all down. But before that, I remember I read one time and a guy said, being good in school is not just about being able to learn, but it's also you have to like what you're learning about. That's why if kids love math, they're going to do good in math. And if they hate math, they're not going to do good. So I always liked a lot of stuff. So I would write everything down. And it's just ingrained in my head, certain statistics on my career. I could remember, believe it or not, I had 74 amateur fights, including 4 exhibitions. So 70 fights, 4 exhibitions. I could tell you from my first fight to the last, I could tell you in order the names of everybody I fought.
That's fucking unbelievable. I can't tell.
And
You I did
look,
that.
I'll give you the first 10, okay? I'll give you the first 10. Israel Roman, Ron Whitback, William Moore, Art McAdams, George Shilley, Roscoe Williams, Tony Taborzik, Mark Joyner, Pascual Paul Romo, and Ron Pessolano.
That's amazing. I actually watched one of your amateur fights. It was brutal. It was actually a brutal fight.
I bet it was against Robert Perez.
It was against Robert Perez. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Robert Perez is one of my best friends in the game. 6 months before that, we were roommates at the Nationals. We had a blast. I talked to him like 3 days ago.
Dude,
Like,
that was
literally
a,
from
that was
now,
a great fight. I mean, headgear and all, it was an amazing fight.
that was like Hagler Hearns. That's the only
You guys
amateur
kicked
fight I
the shit out
remember.
of
I got a standing ovation. We got a standing ovation after that fight.
One of the other things I watched that was awesome is you in the gym after it was closed, giving tips on what makes training fighters better. It was basically pushing yourself further, and the lessons in that. I saved it because it's something that everybody needs to hear about life. It's not just about boxing, but it was actually a beautiful moment because you're in the gym alone. You're after training, you just decide to put some thoughts down. And it was a cool moment. I don't know how many people watched it. I didn't look, but I'll post it up on the thing. But there's some good life lessons in there. Basically, what John, for the people that are listening, what John's saying is, people count themselves. They do what they need to do to the minimum. So they always go to 50, 70, 100. And
Right. Well, I'm sure Jimmy knows. Like when you do sit-ups, like I'll tell a guy like, do as many as you could do, and they'll always do like 50. I say, well, the fact that you did 50 means you did that intentionally, like you reached a goal. I don't want that. I want you to do 57, 43, 82. If you stop on an even number or 75, then I know that you set your mind to it and you reach that goal. That's not how you do it. You gotta run past the goal line. You gotta go over it.
Listen.
Yeah.
anytime there's any kind of a race or anything, a sprint, what do? The last 10 steps, they slow up. They don't blow through that finish line.
Right. Right. And I hate that. I hate that.
I could
And
tell you hated you hate the wussification of America too, don't you? Go ahead and say it.
oh, it's insane.
Disgusting.
But
It's
but yeah, that thing, like, you see, guys, I remember a couple of years ago there was a kid. I don't know if you remember. No, he is. He runs the 200, I guess it is. He's a white kid. I forget his name, but I think he beat Michael Johnson's record or whatever it was. He beat the record. He slowed up in the last 10 yards because he was so far ahead of everybody else. He actually went slower and he still beat the record.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, if that kid would have burned it for the last 10 seconds, 10 yards, the record may never be broken. But he broke it without even really trying. And I'm saying, man, he probably kicks himself every day.
But that's the type of stuff that happens when you're athletically superior. I mean, Roy Jones Jr. is arguably the best athlete that's ever boxed. I mean,
Right.
you fought with him. How
Yeah, I
crazy?
sparred with Roy. Yeah, Roy was a phenomenon.
Would you
know?
agree? Would you agree with that statement, John? That he's the greatest athlete ever in boxing?
I mean, if he's not, he's in the top. He's in the
I'm
upper
just
tier.
curious. I can't disagree. I mean, I can't say he's not because I don't know. I'm just curious. I'd like to hear some other names that could get thrown even close to him.
It's a good question.
As an athlete, like a guy with just such,
Freaky.
natural. I can't even, off the top of my head, I can't even think of anybody, to be honest with you. It's in that realm, it's a tough comparison. I mean, you're, Roy Jones. I mean,
Roy Jones was an
phenomenon.
absolute freak.
Prince
And
Nassim
he did a lot.
a hell of an athlete, but he
That's
wasn't
who I
great.
was just going to bring up was Nassim Ahmed.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
So-
Nassim was was a phenomenon. I love Nassim. But Roy's punches were Nassim was a puncher, but his punches were much wider. Like Roy was, Roy could put punches together like so fast and like people wanted to fight like Roy. I don't know a lot of guys that tried to imitate Nassim,
Good point.
but guys wanted to fight like Roy Jones, and a lot of guys got wiped out and murdered because they tried to fight like Roy Jones and they couldn't do it.
John,
Yeah.
he took the primary building block of boxing, which is the jab, and eliminated. I mean, he didn't even use a jab.
Right.
It's unheard of that you could even do what he did.
I'll tell you what he told me, and I'll tell you two things. If you watch when he was younger, when I first started boxing with him, he had a good jab. He had a very good jab. If you watch his fight, his second pro fight was on NBC against Stefan Johnson in Atlantic City. I was there for that. He used a beautiful jab. He had a beautiful jab. And then he stopped using it. I guess he realized, guys couldn't hit him anyway. But I remember he told me he only jabbed against guys his height or shorter. That against taller guys, he abandoned the jab, stylistically. And most of the guys he had to fight, Hopkins and Virgil Hill, and those guys were taller than him. But like I said, if you watch his early fights, he had a good jab. And I just think he realized, like, man, I can beat these guys without the jab. I'm a freak of nature over here, and he just didn't even need it anymore.
100%. Hey, did you get into his childhood at all with him, John? I mean, I know you're pretty good friends with him, but did he open up about his father and all that stuff?
I never wanted to ask specific questions.
Yeah.
But I know it's tough because I trained there with Big Roy in the gym, and you could clearly see that Big Roy was the dominant figure. He was the dominant figure of the entire gym. Everyone there, including world champions, did whatever he said. And I'll give you an example. He didn't have a bell in the gym. They didn't use a bell. He would use the stop clock. So he told you when the round started. He told you when the round ended. So who knows how long? And I'll tell you a funny thing. I'll tell you a very insightful story about Roy Jones Sr. Tells you how much they respected him, maybe feared him to a certain degree. We were in the gym. He would have everyone glove up, heavyweights to flyweights. Everybody had to glove up, and you never knew when you were going to box. He would tell you. He'd be like Roy would be sparring, and he would be like, "All right, Billy out, Scully in." So that's how I knew I was up, because he told me I'm up. So one time there was a guy, I guess he was having a little trouble with the guy, maybe the guy's attitude or whatever. He was 135 pounds, skinny white kid from Alabama. And so Roy's in the ring sparring with somebody good, like maybe Reggie Johnson, I think. And all of a sudden, I think the kid's name was Gavin. And he goes, all of a sudden, Big Roy goes, "All right, Reggie out, Gavin in." And the kid, his eyes got real big. He didn't even move. And everybody's looking like, Gavin can't spar with Roy. And he's like, "Gavin in."
Yeah.
And the kids he looked at everybody like, "What should I do?" And the kid got in the ring. So everybody's like, "Man, is this really happening? Like, is Roy going to spar with this kid?" And Big Roy goes, "Time." And Gavin started walking out towards the center of the ring. And before little Roy could throw a punch, he goes, "Time." Gavin out, somebody else in.
Just wanted to make sure Gavin had the balls to do it.
He just wanted to see if Gavin was going to do it.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I tell you another time, and I have this on video. I got to get it on VHS. I got to get it on DVD. Roy was sparring with a kid, tall, and I mean tall, like 6'5", super middleweight. I don't know his name. I have no idea who he is. He was not a sharp fighter, but he was so tall and gangly that he gave little Roy problems. And you could see Roy's going to have to wear this guy down and time him. And the more it went, the more you could see Roy wanted to do that, because, it's frustrating. You're fighting a guy and he's slapping you 40 times and you can't even hit him. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the guy stepped back to the ropes and he put his hands up, kind of submitted. He put his hands up like this, and you knew, like, it's over. And little Roy, if you watch Roy Jones, you'll know when he dips to the right and he lowers his right shoulder, he's hiding the overhand right, and he's going to come over the top with it, and you're going to be in big trouble. He started to do that. He was just about to throw it overhand right. Everybody held their breath. There was like 20 guys here. Everybody held their breath because he's about to obliterate this guy. And Big Roy yelled, "Time!" And he saved the guy's life. And Roy stopped and went back to the corner. The guy got out. And I don't know if the guy truly realizes like how much of his life was spared by the sympathy of Roy Jones Sr. that day.
Dude, that's great. I didn't realize that you were tied in at the parent level, because Roy left his dad pretty early in his career. I mean,
I met Roy. I sparred with Roy for the first time as an amateur.
That's crazy.
And we sparred as a pro. So when they broke up, Big Roy actually called me and said, "Hey, me and Little Roy broke up, right?" And I was shocked. I was literally shocked.
Yeah,
that was 1992.
Holy shit! That's when I graduated from high school. So okay. He called you up and said they broke up.
He goes, I never forget who he goes, I broke up. Me and Roy broke up, right? And I was like, "What? Wow, what happened?" And he went through his side of the story, and I didn't see it coming. I know Big Roy, like I say, he was in charge. There's no disputing who the boss was, but Little Roy was getting older and getting a bigger name for himself, and you don't want to be the obedient son forever, I guess. That's
the way Roy tells it. So I heard this on an interview where basically you have the old line, and Roy felt like he wanted. So Roy tells the story where his father was so dominating, and he watched a club fighter that beat one of his father's fighter with style. And he wasn't a better fighter. His father's fighter was the better fighter, but the other fighter won the fight with style. And Roy watched it, And that's where he started thinking, wait, style is real important in this game. It's not just about the fundamentals. So a lot of
Right.
people always say Roy didn't have the fundamentals. Roy had the fundamentals, and
Yeah,
he just
absolutely.
decided to change it up from there. And then he decided he wanted to be the alpha. And his
Right.
father's
Well,
the super alpha. There's no way to make
yeah.
that break without making the break.
Yeah. But and let me tell you something. You know, Roy gets a bad rap, right? People will say, you know, he didn't have the fundamentals, right? I said, listen, he did a lot of things fundamentally right, but he added pizzazz to it. Now, you know, for example, if Mike McCallum threw 3 jabs, a right hand, a double left hook, and then step to the side, everybody would go, oh, that's awesome, like
Beautiful.
awesome, textbook. Now Roy does the same thing, but he does it twice as fast, you know, lightning, and everybody would look at that and go, oh, it's such natural ability. You know what I'm saying? Listen,
His footwork was
he did the same thing, you know. Roy's a smart fighter, and I'll tell you what, I always said this, boxing, I've boxed with, I believe it's 36 world champions, right? Not including, that's not including contenders, just 36 guys who held versions of the world title. And for
fucking,
me,
by the way.
it's a lot of guys, good
Yeah.
guys, you know.
Yeah.
And Roy, right up there in the top 5% of boxing intelligence. He knew, I remember I would do, there was a move I had where, and I still use it to this day. On the inside, I'll grab your arm, your left elbow. Turn your left elbow. I'll pull you this way towards me, so you turn sideways, and I'll hit you with a left hook, left uppercut to the solar plexus. Now I've done that to a lot of people, right?
I just watched you do that in round 10 to Michael Nunn.
Okay, well there you go. Okay, well there you go.
Yeah.
I've done it to a lot of people with great success. I've dropped guys, you know, the whole nine. And
Yeah.
I remember I was trying that with Roy, and he caught me. Like every time he was able to, you know, put his elbow in or whatever he did. And I remember one night we were at the house, and it was kind of funny. He goes, man, that's good what you're doing there. That move, it's really, you know, it's a good textbook technique. It's very good technique. He goes, and he was laughing. He goes, it didn't work on me, but he goes, it's very good. Like he urged me to keep, you know, cultivating it. You know, so, but he's one of the few guys who caught it literally in the act and prevented me from catching him clean with it.
And you caught pretty much everybody with that move. I mean, you were catching world champ after world champ with that move.
Right. I mean, I've dropped, I won't name names, but I mean, I've dropped guys in the gym with that punch, with that specific punch. And I've dropped guys who asked me after, what'd you hit me with? Like they didn't even know where it came from. And I always remember Roy caught it, and he caught it, and you know, but he complimented me on it at the same time, and he said he urged me to keep doing it. And like I say, he's like, well, you know, it didn't work on me, but it'll probably work on other people.
That's the thing about Roy Jones. People do not, and you just nailed it. He's a student of the sport. He's
Yeah.
absolutely it's not just natural ability. That guy knows the sport
Listen,
inside and out and upside and down.
you remember the fight when I believe his name was Jimmy Garcia. Jimmy Garcia got killed in a fight, maybe with one of the Ruelas brothers on HBO. And you know, this is a tough fight. He's getting hit. If you remember, Roy Jones said it a round or two before the fight ended. He got stopped. Roy Jones said, if this keeps up, somebody's going to get killed.
Yeah.
He literally said it word for word.
Yeah. I mean, it's free. Are you still in touch with Roy?
Yeah, I just I saw him in Atlantic City about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was kind of cool. I actually have a video. I did it live. He got inducted into the Atlantic City Hall of Fame. So he came up and he did his speech. So I said, I'm a videotape it for Facebook Live so people can see it. And it was cool. He mentioned my name at least, I would say, 7 times during the speech. And at one point, he really kind of surprised me. He said, John Scully is out here somewhere. He's one of the toughest sparring partners I've ever had. He goes, he used to be on me. He goes, I think he's still on me. He's still chasing me, you know. And my friend was looking at me because my friend is a huge Roy Jones fan. And my friend, like his mouth dropped, like he was in awe of Roy talking about me like that. And, I was really super honored. It was cool. And I'm glad I got it on film.
Well,
So
John, I'm a retro, so I knew you back then. Like I've watched you, but now I studied you, and now I've seen what's happened with you, and I watch what you've done, and I watch the way that it starts off with a bunch of people swinging it air, or you. It wasn't that you were moving, you just had the best defense. You were wearing them down, and then in the later rounds, you would win all those rounds. You would
Right.
win those rounds.
I would go into
Period.
fights hoping, like I used to go into fights wishing that magically I could be dropped off like in the 5th round.
It's around.
Because the first few rounds, you're tense, and I wasn't a fast starter, and guys would start really fast with me. And I used to say to myself, okay, let me wait a few rounds. Let me hit my stride, and then we'll see what happens. So I always waited for the later rounds. That was my bread and butter. I felt like if I had a chance to beat most guys, I was going to do better because, and I always say this, and Jimmy, you'll understand this. Like I teach guys certain techniques, right? And I say, look, the techniques I'm going to teach you, they're not going to work in the first 2 rounds because the pace is too fast. Guys are jittery. They're alert. They're very alert. I said, the stuff I'm good at is when both guys are tired and both guys are settled. And I'll tell you who's a master, James Toney. Like James Toney is a master. Like if you get tired, he's going to surgically brutalize you. And I've always waited for guys to get tired. Now, granted, some guys didn't get tired, and I couldn't take advantage like I wanted to. But if you get tired in front of me, you're gonna have some problem.
It was the corner energy speech. The corner energy speech. You'd look over, and you gave that at the empty gym, where if people are sitting there coming to you pretending they're exhausted, that corner energy, you look over and you can see the weakness. And if you
100%, I'm big on body language. And
keep water.
And what I said in that video was, I've had guys come back to the corner to me after a tough round, and they literally collapse on the rope and they go, give me some water, give me some water. And I don't give it to them. And I go, come on, give me some water. I go, listen, I want to teach you. I go, do you really need water that bad? Are you going to die if I don't give you this water? You are acting like you're going to die. I said, I guarantee you, you are not nearly as tired, exhausted, or thirsty as you are portraying to me. And that's a human weakness for people. Human beings instinctively want sympathy.
Yeah.
You see it all the time with kids. They'll exaggerate how tired they are, so you can either feel sorry for them or excuse them for failing or give them some water. So I tell a guy when he comes back to the corner, I say, listen, don't come back to me like you're going to die, because you're not. And if you keep doing this, everybody in the place is going to know you're tired, and the opponent is certainly going to know it. And you might as well just give up. Like, you might as well just say you quit. Because to me, feigning exhaustion is a way of saying that you quit. It's a way of building an excuse, so when you lose, you can say, well, you saw me, I was exhausted. What was I supposed to do? The thing about me, for better or worse, you watch any of my fights, you don't know that I was so tired. I've been exhausted in fights. I prided myself, if that's a word, prided.
It is.
It is okay. I prided myself on the fact that you didn't know I was tired. I hid it because I didn't want anyone to know, because I didn't want anybody to take advantage of it. So as a trainer, I'm as big on teaching those type of things as I am any type of boxing technique.
That's the most important. I mean, at the end of the day, it's how much will do you have? How much determination do you have? And are you able to put more punishment on the opponent than yourself and take more than you think you can ever handle? And the human body can take way more than most people could ever realize. And I watched you give those, and I could tell, where you were going, and it was so fucking awesome to hear it, because it's not just a boxing thing; it's a beautiful life thing. Now, I also
that's for sure.
I also looked forever to try to find your entrance music. None of the stuff online had. What did you come out to when you were fighting?
To be honest, I didn't really have entrance music. I went with, well, I'll tell you what, my pro debut, I went with a song, and I don't even know who sings it. The Final Countdown. You remember that song?
Fuck yeah.
That was my pro debut.
Europe, the Final Countdown. Yeah, I know it well.
In 1990, when Vanilla Ice was very popular, I came out to Ice Ice Baby,
We
which
played
was
that.
awesome.
We played.
It was awesome at the time, and not only that, I got to tell Vanilla Ice. I met Vanilla Ice about 9 years ago in an ice cream shop. Believe it or not, we ate ice cream together, and I told him who I was, and I told him I came out to Ice Ice Baby, and I showed him I showed him this necklace, Iceman. I said, look, I'm the Iceman as well. I came out to Ice Ice Baby 1990, and he was loving it. And but to be honest, I'll give you an example. I was fighting at Boxwoods one time, and so you're in the corridor outside the main arena. So we're there, and I'm just really ready to go. And so I'm like, man, so finally I just get fed up. I'm, man, what's the holdup? They go, oh, your entrance music isn't ready yet. I'm like, what? We're waiting for my music. I said, let's go. Forget the music. I don't care about the music. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then we went out, because at the end of the day, the music seems to be more for the crowd than the fighter.
The brand new invention.
Well, you yeah.
Like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights.
Yeah, I actually reached out to a bunch of people that know you. I was like, hey, what did he come out to? What does he listen to? They're like, he doesn't give a fuck about music. He's just a fighter.
That's true. It didn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Nothing mattered. And you have that quote about when you're alone. Your famous quote, at least from a fighter perspective, is about being alone in the before the fight.
In the dress room, I've sold T-shirts with that slogan on the T-shirts.
No shit. Okay, where can I get one?
I'm actually waiting to get another shipment in. I'm ordering another set.
Dude, fire it over when it is. I'll buy one. I'll buy a couple. I'll buy it for
yeah. That's a true statement. A true quote. Very true. Fighters more than anyone will understand it completely.
There are very few fighters that don't feel that way. Have you met a fighter that didn't feel that way? Have you ever met anyone that said, "Nah, I don't feel that way"? In the back?
I've met guys who were able to hide it and fake it extremely well. And I tell you, James Toney's one. Eric Harding, light heavyweight, who fought Roy Jones for the title. Eric Harding literally was the most calm, relaxed. I went when he fought Roy Jones, the day he fought Roy Jones, I went to his hotel to say what's up. And I said, all right, man, good luck. And he's, oh, where you going? I go, get some rest. He goes, nah, I go hang out. I said, well, you're fighting Roy Jones tonight, and he literally was like, yeah, hang out, man. And he's showing me his radio, and he's, and he's showing me stuff. And I'm like, man, this guy is, I don't know if he realizes what he's doing tonight, but
distracting
he didn't care.
Yeah,
he didn't care at all. But I've seen grown men literally look like they were going to cry in a dressing room.
I've heard about them actually crying. Yeah,
I've seen guys literally look terrified. Like I'm talking, if you looked at him, you'd go, he just saw the boogeyman. Like, this guy's terrified. And it's a phenomenon, because when I was an amateur, I remember the day, I remember the year. It was 1986. I was in the dressing room at the Holyoke Boys Club getting ready to fight. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking all these thoughts. And a fighter named Patrick Ireland, who I'm actually going to see in a couple weeks. Patrick Ireland comes over to me and he goes, the day of a fight, do you ever go to a stoplight and say to yourself, if it turns green before I get there, that means I'm going to lose? And I go, yeah. He goes, everybody does that. He goes, trust me, you're fine. You're fine. Because he could see I was going through the process.
Yeah.
And he's like, trust me, every crazy thought you have, everybody else has it as well. It just matters who can hide it and who can deal with it the best. And since then, I've talked to fighters, and yeah, man, they so many guys. Even he didn't tell me, but I saw an interview with Mike Tyson where he was even saying he was terrified as world heavyweight champion. He was terrified in the dressing room, and that walking out, he was scared, but he didn't want anyone to know. Kind of the mentality I've always talked about. He didn't want anybody to know it. He wanted everybody to think he was a killer, even though inside he was dying.
Yeah.
And so once he admitted it, I say,
I
there's
was,
no shame in admitting it.
I saw that thing, and it was a beautiful that he did that, because he's like, I was scared of my opponent's going to beat me. And then he goes, when I got in the ring, that's when I was confident. I mean, it was such a beautiful understanding of the emotions to go through the fear, because it is fight or flight. You know, I'm a psychic, and that fight or flight's very real. You either run or you fight. You got no choice.
Right.
It's
Well, that's what the Customato, you know, he talks about the fire and the flame, and he always said there's no difference really between a coward and a hero, only in how they respond to the situation. You know, they're the same guy basically, but one of them will cower and one of them will stand up. You know, and other than that, they're the same people.
How do you build a fighter up before going into that? Like, John, you've trained so many people. Like, how do you get a fighter ready for that?
You know, sometimes it takes weeks, maybe takes years to really get them that way. But it's a lot of it is I always have trouble saying this word, subliminal. I can't say it slow. Subliminal. And you know, you gotta train fighters. People don't realize, like, they think of training and they think it means, hey, do jump rope, do running, do this. Training, you're training a guy from birth to succeed in a certain way psychologically, and you're building him up mentally. As a trainer, you're building a machine, a psychological and physical machine, and part of that is getting him to deal with all these situations. And you know, so people don't realize that what the job of a trainer is or can really mean, and a big part of that is the mental health of a professional boxer.
John, Jimmy just popped back in. I think he took a technical break.
I don't
know if he realizes his room is really dark, though. We can hardly see his face.
Yeah, that's fine.
Jimmy just discovered marijuana like a week ago. He's getting high.
No, not tonight.
John actually covered a wide variety of stuff up to this point, but we were talking about what it takes to get a fighter mentally ready into the ring, because the mental part is not about the training. Jimmy's got a kid. He's got a kid getting ready to go pro right now. That had how many amateur fights, Jim?
He's had about 20.
Yeah, he's got a ways to go. They pulled the brakes on the pro portion.
Yeah.
But if you're taking a young, talented fighter, John, from that level to the upper echelons, and you're trying to break them down and build them back up, what would you say the top 3 lessons are as a pro? What do you think separates the cream from the not cream to get to that
mentality?
Yeah,
mentality. Yeah. You know, there are physical specimens out there who can run faster, jump higher, lift more weight, do everything, and they have a heart the size of a pea. They have a mentality the size of a pea. It's weak. You have when I you know, people will bring me someone and go, oh, I got this kid, he's super fast and he's really mean and he's this and that and he can run the 100-yard dash in 6 seconds. And you know, I said, listen, let me talk to him. And I'll talk to a guy and I'll have him do an exercise. I have a couple exercises. One in particular I have people do. It's extremely hard. It's extremely tough. It'll make you, if you have any quit in you, this is going to bring it out of you.
Yeah.
And it's only a minute long. I want everyone I possibly train to do it. because I want to see, I don't care if they succeed with it. I want to see how they respond to it. I want to see if they quit. I want to see their reason for quitting. I want to see how easily they quit. I want to see if they fight their way through it. I want to see what type of mentality they have. And based on that, I can get a good idea of who's going to succeed down the line. And it's not always the fastest, sharpest, sleekest kid.
Yeah, you're a psychologist, basically.
Right, 100%, 100%.
100%. Absolutely.
100%.
Yes, sir. I had a kid, I have two kids that I've worked with relatively recently. One kid I just worked for a few days, and I mostly talked to him. I trained him, but I talked to him the entire time. And I have an email, I actually saved it. He sent me an email. He said, listen, I want to thank you. You changed my life. You changed my mentality. From here on out, I'm a different person. And that was all I cared about. That's all that was worth more than him paying me something. And I have another guy, good fighter. I showed him, he had never seen it. I said, listen, you're talented. You are super talented. You are a good fighter. You lost your last fight to an inferior opponent because of your mentality. And I showed him Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti, the 9th round of their first fight. And I said, as a skilled person, you are better than both of these guys. But they did something in that 9th round that you either want to do or you don't. And there are many so-called better fighters than both of those guys who would not, absolutely no chance would they make it through that round. They wouldn't have gotten up from the left hook that Mickey caught Arturo with. They would have covered up when they were getting pounded on in the last 30 seconds, in which both of them were getting crushed. That was a special round, and they both answered questions that can only be answered one way. And I'm always looking for someone who I think could answer the question in a similar fashion.
Yeah, when you soul search to that degree, I mean,
Right.
deep diving on what you're made of. And for the rest of Gotti, rest in peace. But Mickey Ward, Jimmy's still close with Mickey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be able to go through that and know what you're made of, I mean, that's so much better. Is it, John? Is there anyone right now that you're following that you're like, this person's incredible? Like anybody that you see that desire, old school heart in, or anybody that's inspiring you?
I work with Artur Beterbiev, light heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
I'm not his head trainer. I go to camp with him. I do the pads with him and different things. He's a special individual. He has a special mentality that I really love. He's from Chechnya. He's a devout Muslim, and I believe, and I've dealt with other guys from that part of the world, Croatia, different places. There's something to be said for upbringing and, forming that mentality.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. There was a guy similar to Artur. He was sparring with Artur. The sparring was incredibly tense, like incredibly tense. This guy was from Croatia, and I could just see in his demeanor through every conversation that he was legit. Like, he was completely killer, serious. And somehow the conversation got on welfare. And I said, well, welfare, we take care of this and that. And he goes, what is welfare? And I explained it to him. And he was completely serious. He wasn't joking. And he said, listen, where I come from, we don't have this. He goes, if you need food, you either if you don't have it, he said, your family gives it to you, you take it from someone, or you kill someone and just steal it from them. I'm like, oh, okay. And he tells me a story about a guy in the gym. It wasn't a story, but he mentioned one of the guys in the gym that he didn't like. And so I said, well, so what's wrong with that guy? And he's like, oh, he's always laughing and joking. And I was being funny, and I went, yeah, it's crazy, right? And he didn't catch that I was being funny, right?
There's no
And
humor.
so joking, I said, man, if he lived where you live, he'd have to stay in the house. And in complete seriousness, without breaking stride, he goes, oh, no, we go in and we get him. I said, okay. So that's the mentality this freaking guy had. I don't even remember his name. That's the mentality he's had from birth.
Yeah.
And Arthur is similar. You know, he grew up in a similar part of the world with a similar mentality. And, you know, it's truly like kill or be killed. Like, you know, that's, you know, somebody's got to get hurt here. You know, I'm not trying to, Arthur Beterbiev has never, and he hasn't, he's not trying to win on points. He's trying to win by knockout. And I remember the one fight he had that all his fights have ended with knockouts, right? And he went to the 12th round with this guy who was very mobile. The guy did good to stay out of Arthur's way, but the guy wasn't really trying to win at all costs. The 12th round comes up, and I say to the guy with me, I go, watch this. I go, don't be surprised if Arthur stops him in the 12th round, right?
Yep.
And sure enough, he caught him. He caught him in that 3 minutes, and he got rid of him. And I was saying, because Arthur's mentality is, the fight's almost over. I got to get this guy, even though I've won every round. Like, there's no prayer that Arthur loses a decision. Like, he was way ahead. So he could have coasted and let the guy survive. But I know his mentality. And I said it. I said, he's probably going to get the guy this round. And he tracked the guy down, and he got him out of there in the 12th round.
Never show him the Thomas Hearns Sugar Ray Leonard fight ever. Let him continue that attitude.
Right.
Now, what brought you into the gym, man? What made you angry enough to go fight people? What pissed you off to get in there?
Nothing.
Really?
I was never angry. Listen, I'm the only boxer on earth, maybe. I've never fought for money. I didn't care about money.
Yep.
I didn't even necessarily want to go pro. I only went pro because when I turned pro, I was the fourth ranked middleweight in the country. I just came from the Olympic trials, and I had a lot of people trying to get me to go pro and, you know, sign me. And it was just the next step. But I planned on being amateur forever. I wanted to win the Golden Gloves. I remember I had it in my head, I want to win it 12 times. I won the Golden Gloves where I lived 4 times. I wanted to win it 12 times. But there was a lot of pressure to go pro. But as a kid, I started boxing. I didn't have to escape poverty. I didn't, none of that. I wanted to pretend I was Muhammad Ali in a real ring, because I used to do it at my house on the bed, but there was no ropes, there was no canvas, and I wanted to do it with another person. So I went to a gym where there was a ring and another guy, and I started doing it there. And my coach said I was pretty good and I should stick with it and try to compete.
Is your dad a tough motherfucker, or is your mom tough as nails? Somebody in your
my father. My father he passed away. But my father was an older guy, Irish guy, grew up in the Depression.
What's his name? Let's give him a shout out.
Gerald Scully.
Gerald Scully. Shout out to you, man. R.I.P.
Yes,
Go ahead.
He lived in a house with an outhouse. I believe it had 3 bedrooms, and I actually live a couple miles away from it right now, but I believe he had 3 bedrooms in the house, but there was 6 kids plus the mother and father. I remember, like I said, they said they had an outhouse. It was during the Depression. I mean, my father saw the Hindenburg fly over his school 2 hours before it crashed.
We often call this podcast the Hindenburg of podcasts. So
okay, well, my father saw it live, and so he just was a big boxing fan. He loved boxing. He loved, and it's funny because I became friends with Archie Moore later on as an adult. My father, who was an unemotional guy, Irish guy, grew up in the Depression. Everything, he went to work at like 13, worked his entire life till he was about 84. Just everything was about making money, making money, making money. But he told me when Archie Moore fought Yvonne Durrell, it was a famous fight. Archie Moore went down a bunch of times. It should have been over in the first round. Moore ended up stopping Durrell in the 9th round. My father said he was on the floor of his apartment on Greenfield Street in Hartford, screaming at the TV, "Get up, Archie Moore, get up." And my father never shows emotion at anything, but Archie Moore being on the canvas brought it out of him. So he was the guy who introduced me to boxing. So that was it. I just wanted to pretend I was boxing Muhammad Ali.
Dude, that's fucking amazing. And are you 100% Irish? What's
Yes.
your, yeah.
All my grandparents are from Cork, Ireland.
Yeah, I'm half and German on the other half,
Okay.
but yeah, they say the Irish are immune to psychotherapy. So if
Yeah, I believe it.
Hey,
I
John.
always told well, let me just say one thing. A guy tried to hypnotize me once. That didn't work.
Didn't work.
There's no way.
I went to do a Flip Orley concert in DC in Georgetown. The entire place is out, and all my friends at the table they were out too. I looked around going, "The fuck is going on here?"
Hey, John, where do you put Archie Moore as an all-time great?
I mean, well, here's where people will lower him unreasonably. I believe he had 19 losses. I believe it was 19, maybe 19, give or take. But he had 145 to 148 knockouts. Archie Moore is elite. Now, in the top 10 all time, I always say this, and you'll understand. There's not enough room in the top 10 for the top 10.
Correct.
Because there are 30 guys who could be in the top 10, and any combination of those 10 would be fine. Archie Moore is one of those guys. He had losses, but people don't realize two things. One, most of his losses were to heavyweights, because back then that's the only way he could make more money was fight heavyweights, even though he was a light heavyweight. And B, nobody cared about losses back then. It wasn't a big deal. It didn't really become a big deal. Like when Ali and Frazier fought, it was a huge deal because, man, these guys are both undefeated. It was a big deal because it wasn't such a common thing. When network TV in the 70s and the 80s, especially in the early 80s, Mancini, Bobby Chacon, guys like that, when guys were undefeated, that was a selling point. Every big fight had an undefeated guy against a guy. So when Mancini was on there, he was fighting guys, good guys. Tyrone Crawley was undefeated. Robin Blake was undefeated. Marlon Starling, Donald Curry, Milton McCrory, Nino LaRocca. Every one of those guys was undefeated on the weekend fights. So newer boxing fans think undefeated means everything. Back then, guys fought to make money. And if they lost, they fought again 2 weeks later to make more money, and they would lose to a regular guy, and then 2 weeks later knock out a top 5 ranked contender. So Archie Moore fought anybody and everybody, including heavyweights. He scored unbelievable knockouts, and easily could fit in someone's version of top 10 all time.
I agree, baby.
Yes, sir. Now we could name 20 guys that could be in the top 10. I mean, even though he didn't have a lot of fights, I could see Sugar Ray Leonard with his quality of victories being a top 10. Muhammad Ali, Roberto Duran, Kid Gavilan, Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, there's so many, there's so many. There's not enough room in the top 10 for a top 10.
Incredibly valid point. And everybody now just builds up fighters to the point where undefeated records really don't mean quite so much.
Right. Well, and look, again, I always say Jimmy will understand perfectly. At one point in my career, a reporter asked me, "Who's the best guy you ever fought?" And I said, "Randy Smith." And he laughed at me.
I love it. What a great.
He laughed at me. Now listen, Randy Smith, when I fought him, was 22 wins and 20 losses. Now I fought Brett Lally at the time, Tim Littles, Tony Thornton, and I said, Randy Smith is the best guy I fought. And the guy laughed, and I said, listen, let me educate you. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You think, because I fought some undefeated guys, and they were, and I'm not saying they weren't good, they were great. Tim Littles was elite, you know, but Randy Smith was 22-20, had never been stopped, had never been knocked down. As an amateur, was an elite upper echelon national amateur. What people don't realize, at 22-20, his losses were against the likes of 10-round decisions against all of them. Michael Nunn, Frank Tate, Michael Olajide, James Kinchin, Sambu Kalambe, Iran Barkley.
Wow.
I mean, literally, Michael, all these guys he fought, he went 10 rounds. He fought Nunn and Tate like 12 days apart or something and went 10 rounds with both of them. And I remember, Jimmy, you probably remember Johnny Boss.
Yeah.
Johnny Boss said to me, listen, don't bother trying to hit this guy in the head because you will not be successful. Go after his body, work on the inside, bully him, use your strength and, you know, your experience and this and that. But if you try to hit him in the corner with 20 head punches, you're going to come up empty.
Why?
And
Was his head movement that good? Because
he was a genius. As I'm telling you, he
I
had
need to
22
look
wins, 20 losses, but he was a boxing master. He was a genius. He used, put it this way, he sparred with Roy Jones for Roy Jones fights when Roy was, you know, right before he fought James Toney. Matter of fact, when Roy fought James Toney, I was in the hotel room of Roy's manager, and Randy Smith was there. He was a part of the entourage, and you know, so and Roy, obviously, to spar with Roy Jones, you have to be able to fight. You got to be good.
Yeah.
So Randy Smith was at that level. He was a guy who had beaten, when I fought him, he had just knocked out Salvador Maciel from, I think, Argentina, who was ranked like number 4 in the world at light heavyweight. And we fought at super middleweight. He knocked out Maciel right before we fought. And, you know, I'm sure they brought Randy over there because they thought he would be an easy win. They didn't have Johnny Boss to tell him not to try and hit him in the head. And Randy ended up knocking Maciel out.
Was it his head movement, or was it like what you did? You didn't actually move very much side to side with your head.
He had great head movement, but he was slippery. He was cagey. He knew where to put his body. He knew how to shift himself, counterpuncher. Like I said, if you look up his
John, do you see what's on my screen right now?
that's me and Alfonso Bailey in November of 1989 at the Springfield Civic Center on the undercard of Simon Brown and Luis Santana.
Unbelievable.
I'm wearing the red trunks. I'm wearing those red trunks with the white stripe because those are the same exact style that Ali wore against Joe Frazier.
And you don't have the rat tail, but you have beautiful locks in the back of your head that easily lead to
Well, I think the rat tail was starting. That was in the beginning stages.
It was starting.
Yeah, that was. And I'll tell you what, Don Elbaum, who I like Don, so I'm not talking bad about him. He was the promoter of that show, and he's in the Hall of Fame. But he didn't pay us after the fight. He went out the back door, and we waited out in the hallway for like 45 minutes. And some guy comes out and he's like, "Hey, that guy left like 20 minutes ago. He's gone."
How much did he owe you? How much did he owe you for that?
I mean, you know, it was a USA Tuesday night fight, a few thousand. You know, my
Hey,
manager ended up
bullshit.
paying me.
Hey, bullshit. John knows
That's it.
exactly. John knows exactly the figure. There's no way you'd forget.
No, I'll tell you what. For that fight, I'll tell you why I'm not. You know, I'm not exactly familiar. One, like I say, I never fought for the money, and I was so excited. I'll be honest, like I always wanted to be on TV, and Alfonso Bailey was a very good fighter. I knew about him because as an amateur, he was ranked number 1 in the United States at 156 pounds. I had great respect for him. I almost didn't want to take the fight because I felt like making 160 and fighting Alfonso Bailey would be really tough. And he was sparring with Simon Brown for all Simon's fights. So he was coming out of camp with Simon in great shape. I almost didn't want that fight. So when I won, and I looked very good, it was one of my best fights as a pro.
Yeah, you look
I
great.
was so excited. I didn't even care about the money. I was in the hallway. I was just hanging out, talking to people. I didn't care about the money. And then somebody came out and said, "Hey, the promoter's gone. He left." And my manager, a few weeks later, or whatever, he ended up paying me. Let me think. So back then, I mean, Tuesday night fight, it was the co-feature. So I'm guessing 2,500, 3,000 probably.
Man, I mean, you wouldn't even know that that was you. If you look at you later, you're like tan with a rat tail. You're thickly muscled right here.
Well, here's what it was.
Fucking
Back
dude.
then, I was losing the weight
Yeah.
horribly. Like I was at 160 for that fight. There's no way in the world I should have been fighting at middleweight. There was no chance. And my manager at the time,
Is
he
this one
said,
that
"Oh,
made you go with the gentleman? That same.
right.
Yeah.
He was a good boxing guy, but he didn't understand about the weight, and he didn't believe in super middleweight because it wasn't one of the original 8 weight classes. And I said, "Listen, man, Sugar Ray Leonard is the super middleweight champion. What are you talking about? It's a real weight class." He goes, "No, it's got to be middleweight or light heavyweight, and you're not big enough for light heavy." So he had me get down to middleweight. What I had to go through to make 160 was horrific. It was insane.
Yeah, I met you.
And
You're like 6 feet. You're like 6 feet, right? You're pretty tall.
no, I think a little over 5'10".
Okay.
A little over 5'10". But I put it this way: when I was an amateur, I was 165, solid as a rock. But I was weighing 172, 173,
Natural.
and I would have to make weight like at the National PAL in 1986. I had to lose 6 pounds the night before the weigh-in to make 165. And now here it is a couple years later, and he's got me at 160. It was horrible. And the first thing I did when we broke up was ditch the name Gentleman John, and the second thing was go to super middleweight.
I'm watching you. You know, what's amazing is I'm now studying you now. My favorite fighter growing up was Felix Trinidad because I loved that he had no wasted motion at all.
Right.
And watching you, you have a whole different style, completely different style, but you don't have a lot of wasted motion at all. Like your fighting style, you don't burn energy.
Right. You know what it was? Honestly, it might have been a detriment in the end. Donald Curry and Marlon Starling were the two guys, like I said about Marlon earlier, with the defense, keeping their hands up. And Donald Curry was similar. And what I liked about Donald Curry, they used to describe him and they would say pinpoint accuracy, never waste punches, a surgeon, a technician. And I love that. I wanted to be like that. And so I made in my mind, I didn't want to throw wild punches. I didn't want to, waste punches. I wanted all my punches to really count like Donald Curry's did. And in a sense, it was a mistake. I did good. I did great in the fight you're watching. That was one of my better fights. But one of my flaws actually ended up being where I didn't let my hands go enough, because if things weren't perfect, I wouldn't throw. I had to have you lined up perfect. I wanted to be pinpoint accuracy like Donald Curry. So I should have been more willing to risk looking wild, looking bad to get the job done. And I tried too much to be a perfectionist.
I don't know, man. Now that I'm rewatching, and I think historians can study the tape and come up to their own conclusions, but I don't see anybody who's better defensively. And I really am not watching any really wasted punches at all. And I've watched every fight, and I thought highly of you coming into this. As I watched all your fights, I was like, holy fucking shit, this guy's so underrated in history. Because even the fights that you were in, the championship fights, I could argue that you won all of them, but might have looked like you were losing all of them. You were the opposite of Ray Leonard. You would lose rounds that you won, where Ray Leonard would win rounds that he lost.
Yeah. Well, like I said,
It's
like
funny. Roy Jones, you grew up with Roy Jones fighting, because Roy Jones was all style. You were substance through and through.
Did my best. Yeah, but Roy, I'm glad I didn't try to. A lot of guys try to emulate Roy. You know, I saw guys do it, and you know, there's only one Roy Jones. You can't imitate that. You know, you
Well,
get yourself killed.
well, I'll tell you this. I think more people need to emulate you in the ring and out of the ring, because what you're doing with life, what you're doing with every part of your life, writing things down included, your memory, your experiences, what you're doing to help boxers, what you've done to help and change lives all over the world. It's amazing. I don't want to wear you out. Jimmy and I know that we could
No,
keep.
I just one more thing. One more thing, John. And we're gonna do this every time you come on. Share, tell people how they can donate to
Yeah, I want to donate. I want to donate immediately.
so, John, go ahead and tell us how we can do that.
Well, all you have to do is connect. I have two Facebook pages. I have Iceman John Scully, and I have John the Iceman Scully. And the Iceman is one word. You can connect with me on there. And what people do is, I guess, one of three things. I sell different memorabilia items that they would buy, and I would give the money to different fighters. Or if they just want to donate, some people, for some reason, they don't want to do it this way. I tell them, I'll give you the address of Wilfred Benitez or Gerald McClellan or Pritchard Cologne. You can send it yourself. And for some reason, I'm not really sure why, but they don't want to do that. They want to send it to me and have me send it.
Because you're
So,
trustworthy. The people trust you. I trust.
right, but I mean, but I'm just telling, like, you could send it directly if you want. It's, you know, it's not gonna be a problem, but they want me to send it. So I say, okay, I'll send it to me and I'll send it. So, and they usually Venmo me or PayPal. Some people send checks. A guy actually, I got it right here. A guy actually just sent me a check for $100 today. You know, no strings attached. He doesn't want any memorabilia. He just wants me to give it to one of the guys.
There's only one thing shady about you that I found, and I'm going to call you out on it. It looks like you're in the daylight, and yet it's complete darkness. Where the fuck are you right now? Why?
I'm at a gas station
Okay.
and I'm at the pump.
I'm like, oh wait, it looks like it's in Hawaii right now.
I'm at pump 7. I'm at pump 7 at the. Wow, you know what's crazy? That's crazy. I didn't even know this was a Circle K. I didn't realize we had Circle K up here. The only Circle K I know about is in Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah.
And okay, we've got Circle K. So I'm at the Circle K in Windsor, Connecticut.
I'm going to quote the old Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. There's crazy things afoot at the Circle K.
Yeah.
John
Wow.
Scully, you are an inspiration. You're a great, great man. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I've learned a lot. And not only I've learned a lot studying you, and what I've realized is that you literally have this beauty in you that just inspires people. And I want you to keep doing what you're doing, man. Hopefully you'll come back on the show, but we love you. I love you.
And hopefully
Keep doing
next time you're on the show, Eric won't make it as awkward as he just did.
yeah, dude. John knows where I'm coming from. It's all heart, man. It's all.
I got you. I believe it.
It's all.
No, it was great. I love the show. It was cool. It's good. I like the vibe. So yeah, I'll definitely come back. No problem at all.
Put me in your journal.
100%.
All
Everybody on the media, anybody that I do that interviews me, or since I was a kid, I keep track of all their names. I'm writing a book, which I'll probably never finish, but if I do, in the shout out section, I put all the people who've ever interviewed me. So you guys are definitely in there.
Hey, John, this is for you. Good night,
There
bro.
you go.
And thank you. God bless you, man. Stay safe. God bless you to your family. And thank you for the time, man. You are absolutely amazing. I appreciate
Thank
it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, brother.
All right, buddy.
Doctor hypnotized Andrew. And so now Andrew thinks that the testicles is above the belt rather than below.
What would you like to do next?
At the end of the day, I don't
don't make my fights. I'm just a fighter, but I will fight anybody.
Wow. So, hey, how are you? Where are you and the kids?
And the master.
Can you bring them into the office?
I can bring the little one as compared to the big one.
Well, yeah, the big one doesn't matter. Yeah, she'll do whatever she wants, but bring the little one. Okay.